Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being back. Now we're going to start the very first session, and this plenary session is titled Korea and the IDB, the Experience and the Partnership Model since 2005. And for this particular session, we have one moderator and 6 panelists who are all here on the stage. Let me briefly explain to you who they are. First of all, we're truly happy to have Professor Kwak Jae-sung from Kyunghee University to moderate the session. Let's welcome him with a big round of applause. Thank you very much. Now for the first panelist, Mr. Federico Gutierrez, Mayor of City of Medellin of Colombia. Let's welcome him. And from Korea, Mr. Kim Hwae-jung, Deputy Minister of International Affairs, Ministry of Economy and Finance. Thank you. And we have Ms. Dolores Cortez, Director of Institutional Relations at Innovation Park of Buenos Aires, Argentina. Let's welcome her with another big round of applause. Thank you very much. And we're happy to have Mr. Kim Gi-jung, Regional President of LOC from KOTRA. Let's welcome him. And we have Mr. Juan Antonio Caterel, Chief of Capital Markets and Financial Institutions Division at the IDB. Let's welcome him with a big round of applause. Last but not least, we're joined by Mr. Camilo Guernel, Managing Partner at Angel Ventures at Mexico. Please welcome him with another big round of applause. Now we look forward to hearing your very valuable analysis and observation. Now, Professor Kwak, it's all yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you for participating in this session. Not only the panelists, the distinguished audience. It has passed 12 years since Korea's ingression to Inter-American Development Bank. And, 14 years. And 12 years, what I mean is when we started the first Korea LOC Business Summit, it was 2007. I still remember the very first business summit. Even the name was not that grandiose. We started with a very small gathering to discuss the future of Korean and Latin American relationship, celebrating our membership to Inter-American Development Bank. We expected something new, but after all those years, we didn't expect this kind of colorful, full of energy and big spectrum in terms of our business, economic, and beyond the relationships between those two regions. Looking back, the history between Korea and Latin American history, there were many important turning points and watershed, including Latin American participation in Korean War, our diplomatic relationship cultivations, series of important trade talks, and etc. But I can definitely mention one of the most important turning points of the relationship between Korea and Latin America is 2005's Korea's membership in Inter-American Development Bank. That has entirely changed the horizon of the relationships between the two regions. After 12 years of the relationships, we have to figure out what has changed between those two regions and what are the contributions of the bank in cultivating the relationships. So we have 6 distinguished guest speakers to give you a definite answer about that. This is how I will manage the session. I'm going to divide the whole session into 2 parts. The first part will be dedicated to the partnership and collaboration between Korea and Latin America based on IDBs platform. And second part, we will discuss more about the future, and we'll discuss more about how we elaborate, how we materialize, and how we disseminate this noble relationship cultivate for the last 12 years towards more futuristic visions. And to be able to do that, we have invited very much selected, I'm not going to say excellent, selected guest speakers here, both from public and private sector, from Korea and Latin American side, as well as the IDB side. So for the beginning, then I'd like to invite Mr. Kim Hye-jung, the Deputy Minister of Korea. What is actually going on between Korea and Inter-American Development Bank? What are the relationships cultivated for last 14 years? Okay, so floor is yours, Mr. Kim.
Okay, thank you, Professor Kwak. Since joining the IDB in 2005, Korea has been working with the IDB through mainly 3 channels, namely trust funds, the KIF, which stands for Korea Infrastructure Development Co-Financing Facility, and KSP, or Knowledge Sharing Program. As for trust funds, Korea has contributed a total of $197 million so far. We have formed and operated 4 trust funds, which were used as sources to finance various sectors like science technology, healthcare, fiscal management, and to assist business activities of the private enterprises. Last year in particular, the trust fund has funded 24 projects with $17 million. To name a few, the projects include strengthening the ICT border connectivity in borders in Central America and improving the Central America-Korea connectivity, which is related with the submarine cable. The KIF, or Korea Infrastructure Development Co-Financing Facility, is a co-financing facility between the IDB and the EDCF, or Economic Development Cooperation Fund, which is the Korean government's ODA fund for concessional financing. The KIF has supported building public infrastructure to meet the needs in the LAC region. The total volume of KIF in phase 1 from 2015 to 2017 was $100 million and was fully disbursed. Following that, the volume of phase 2 from 2018 to 2022 has been increased to $300 million. The KIF has secured the funding of 7 projects by supporting $230 million. The projects include the program for habilitation and conservation of agro-industrial corridors in Paraguay, and reform program for water and sanitation services in the Central District in Honduras. Now, on KSP, Knowledge Sharing Program of the Korean government. The KSP supports economic development of partner countries by sharing Korea's development experience through joint programs with the MDBs, as well as through bilateral channels. In 2011, Korea kicked off the joint consulting, which interlinked IDB's expertise and network with Korea's policy advisory support. Up to now, we have carried out 40 projects, including support for improving resident registration system in Chile and support for mobile broadband improvement in Ecuador. In summary, together with the IDB, Korea has identified and carried out projects through trust funds and co-finance facility, and they share the knowledge and experience through a joint program between the IDB and the KSP. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. It's comprehensive enough that we have cultivated with the IDB in terms of our facilities. Now, I'd like to hear from IDB side about how you see this relationship. More specifically, what are the most emblematic projects jointly funded between Korean government and IDB, and what are the opportunities of collaboration envisioned for the future? So, Juan Antonio.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the introduction and your hospitality. Definitely for us at the IDB, it's a great pleasure to be able to work so closely and in a so structured manner with our counterparts in the Korean sector, both public and the private sector. Rather than going into naming some particular projects, which could be difficult to say which one is more emblematic than the other because all of them have been extremely successful. I would stress the fact that the collaboration between the Korean government and the ADB spans in all the different levels of project preparation and project execution. In particular, we have been using a great deal of technical assistance provided by the Korean government to conduct studies of sectoral studies in order to better understand what the needs are and what the possibilities of financing projects are there. In particular, in my specific domain, it is the digital infrastructure, which has been a very new thing in Latin America and at the ADB since 10 years ago. The second aspect of the collaboration has to do with project preparation. Many times, the Korean grant money has been instrumental in being able to achieve a good preparation for projects that then are financed. When we move on to the phase of financing, the co-financing of the loans that we provide with the Korean money is being also very important. In particular, I should say that we financed 4 years ago a rollout of broadband for Nicaragua, and it was co-financed by the Korean Investment Fund. And we have been also providing loans in Argentina and in Colombia for the implementation of policy measures on the digital infrastructure space. Also, in many other countries, the co-financing of the Korean projects or the IDB projects by the Korean government has been also very important. And finally, last but not least, also Korean grant money is used for one very important thing, and that is the impact evaluation of our projects. We, as bank, are not satisfied until we do prove that our projects have had a positive impact and a relevant impact in the economies and the development policies of our member countries. This is for what happened. For what's going to happen in the future, we are expecting to keep working on these same lines, but focusing mostly, at least on the area of my purview, on strengthening the basis of the fourth industrial revolution. To many people, the fourth industrial revolution is a world of everybody sharing artificial intelligence, sharing data, Internet of Things, producing data, so forth. But this is a dream that won't come true unless the connectivity infrastructure is there. And this is our main role, to be able to provide the basis for this sort of new El Dorado type of idea of the fourth industrial revolution be able to take in place. And for that, we definitely need the partnership of our Korean partners. Thank you very much.
Okay, excellent. From IDB's viewpoint, Korea's role in facilitating digital infrastructure and project preparations and also impact evaluations, very critical, and this role should go on. And I fully agree with that. We all heard our Deputy Prime Minister's speech and the IDB President's speech with regard to the changing nature of Korean and Latin American relationships and IDB contribution. We'd like to learn more about the precise happenings. So what's actually going on, what has actually happened between those two regions. So Mr. Kim Gi-jun, who is the Director General of Latin American region of KOTRA, will enlighten us with regard to the changing nature of Korean-Latin American relationships since 2005, with a special focus on trade and investment and project. Please.
Okay, thank you. Since 2005, when Korea joined IDB, our trade and investment has increased dramatically. Korea-Latin America trade volume has increased from $22 billion in 2005 to $48 billion in 2018. In particular, Korea's export to Latin America increased 87%, while imports increased 176%. While the trade balance is still positive for Korea, imports from Latin America has grown at a much faster rate. Korea's investment in Latin America also increased significantly from $6 billion to $81 billion over the same period, which means that Latin American countries are strategic partners for Korean companies. However, despite this expansion of trade and investment, there have not been many successful stories of winning projects in Latin America, even after joining IDB. This year, the project won by Korean companies stand at roughly $100 billion, which is a significant decrease compared to last year's $700 million. And since 2005, Korean companies have only been awarded the total amount of $1.8 billion of IDB financed projects, only 8 instances. There may be several factors behind the small number of awarded projects in Latin America. One of the factors may be that there are simply not enough projects suitable for Korean companies' expertise, such as power generation, refineries, or water treatment, etc. Other factors may be quantitative, such as low price competitiveness, or qualitative, like the lack of business experience in Latin America. So, in order to overcome these difficulties, more strategic approach is needed, like establishing a consortium with local companies who have sufficient experience in the market, or cooperating with KOTRA or embassy or other public entities which may facilitate contact with project developers, and fostering market specialists from long-term perspectives. The Korean government also needs to support in order that more Korean companies participate in IDB finance projects. This will include the formation of Team Korea, consisting of government, financial institution, and private companies, with public sector's more active role in guiding companies and mitigating business risks. And organization of this kind of event, Korea-LAC Business Summit, more frequently or annually will be greatly helpful for Korean companies to understand better the IDB business process and build networks in Latin America.
Thank you very much. Very succinct way to illustrate current relationship between Korea and Latin America. Especially, I like the wording of Team Korea. I'm not going to say this is a mercantilistic word, but it is very important to understand the nature of the Latin American market, which is very far away, culturally distinct. We have language barriers. A lot of new entrepreneurs and companies have not much of an idea about the region. So in this regard, there is a role, definitely the role of financial institutions and public sectors. So thanks for emphasizing this here. Now we turn to the precise cases. So we have like 3 distinguished representatives from Latin American countries. Each of them have their own cases in terms of our relationship and with the support of IDB. So we'd like to hear firstly about the case of Medellin. We are very honored to have His Excellency, Mr. Federico Gutierrez, the mayor of Medellin. And I'd like to ask, what aspect of the current collaboration between Korea and Medellin would you like to share with us? Please.
Bueno, buenos días para todos. Yo primero pues quiero darle las gracias por esta invitación a nuestro buen amigo, el presidente del BID, Luis Alberto Moreno, al gobierno de Corea, y decir que en cierta forma Colombia y Corea ya tenemos una relación de muchos años. El 25 de junio de 1950, cuando el ejército norcoreano, con el apoyo de los soviéticos, invadieron justamente Corea del Sur, las Naciones Unidas hacen un llamado para crear una fuerza multinacional y hacer un llamado justamente para preservar la paz en la región y respetar a Corea del Sur, y Colombia fue uno de los 16 países justamente que hizo parte de esa alianza multinacional, y es una relación que viene de atrás y ahí hay historia. Yo quisiera decir que acá hay una gran delegación importante hoy de empresarios colombianos que están acompañando también este espacio, el ministro de Industria y Comercio José Manuel Restrepo, Flavia de Procolombia, y cuando uno mira la relación entre Corea y Colombia, pero la aterriza uno a ciudades a través del BID, hoy tenemos una cooperación, solo en los últimos 4 años, cercana a los 14 millones de dólares, directamente con la ciudad, especialmente en temas de transporte, directamente a través del MOLIT, que es el Ministerio del Territorio, Infraestructura y Transporte de Corea, y lo que estamos haciendo con ellos y con el gobierno de Corea, y que este mismo año queda ya implementado el sistema, es la implementación de soluciones para la mejora del sistema de movilidad inteligente de Medellín. Son aspectos importantes como el diseño y operación del centro integrado para la movilidad, es coordinar el sistema inteligente de movilidad, los semáforos, el sistema de fotodetección, el control de flota, el desarrollo del sistema de administración de transporte, el desarrollo del centro de información de parqueo regulado y la capacitación y generación de capacidades. Solo ese convenio de movilidad sostenible son 12.5 millones de dólares, pero a lo largo de estos años y desde el 2016, donde las acciones son más fuertes, pues se viene haciendo también con la Agencia de Cooperación Internacional de Corea, que es el COICA, y las oficinas de Naciones Unidas de Servicio de Proyectos, el proyecto piloto para las MIPYME del sector clúster de energía eléctrica de Medellín, y lo que ha venido haciendo es un fortalecimiento de cadenas productivas de proveedores eléctricos en la generación, transmisión, distribución y comercialización de energía eléctrica. Solo ese convenio es por $800.000. Y lo que tiene que ver con la oficina comercial de la Embajada de Corea del Sur en Colombia, COTRA, que así se llama, el apoyo a la elaboración del Plan Maestro Integral de Movilidad. Y hay algo que es importante y lo podemos responder en otra pregunta, y es todo lo que ya estamos haciendo y viene, en todo lo que viene para Cuarta Revolución Industrial, donde nosotros ahí vemos ya un apoyo grande, justamente con el desarrollo del Centro de Movilidad en temas que ya utilizamos, como Internet de las Cosas, Big Data, inteligencia artificial, y ahora cuando hablemos de Cuarta Revolución Industrial podemos ver cuál es el alcance que sigue también para una ciudad como Medellín, para un país como Colombia y para la región, porque el centro que queda en Medellín es para toda la región de América Latina.
Excellent. I remember our first project in transportation sector with Colombia started in Barranquilla some 12, 13 years ago. And Korean companies participated in establishing the bus rapid transit project. And since then, what I see is not only the dissemination of the similar concept in other cities, but also the concept has been amplified, not just one single transportation project, but we are talking about smart city, we are talking about small and medium-sized firms, collaborations, and also on-grid projects. So comprehensive urban requirements, urban related projects are being undertaken in Medellin. So definitely the city of Medellin should be the model case of a collaboration between Korean and Latin American leading cities. such an exciting part. I'd like to hear more about the urban relationships, actually, but with a slightly different angle and different country, which is one of the most fascinating cities in South America, Buenos Aires. We have Dolores Cortes, who is a director of Institutional Relations of Innovation Park of Buenos Aires. So can you tell us the current areas of collaboration among Korean government, City of Buenos Aires, and IDB in your area, please?
Hello, everybody. First of all, thank you to Luis Alberto Moreno and all the IDB team and the Korean government for this invitation and for your hard efforts to organize this incredible event. So thank you very much. So the IDB and Buenos Aires city government has a long-term relationship, and nowadays we are working in a technical cooperation among the IDB, the Buenos Aires city government, and also the Korean government through their agency Born to Global. The goal of this cooperation is the internationalization of the technology-based companies. So we have focused these collaborations in two pillars. First, the Buenos Aires entrepreneurial ecosystem, and then the future innovation park that the city will have. We are very enthusiastic about this amazing project that the city will have. So let me tell you a little bit more about Buenos Aires. Buenos Aires is a city of 6 million people that are working and studying there every day. We have more than 40 universities. We have more than 800,000 university students, more than 80,000 international students going there every year. We also have 11,000 research scientists working for the city and the public system in Buenos Aires. We have 5 out of the 10 current unicorns that are in Latin America. 5 of them were born here, and we hope to have a lot more, and we hope also that these innovation projects help to the creation of more unicorns and more startups and more collaboration between the Korean government and the Argentinian government. So let me tell you a little bit more about this innovation park that the city will have. That we have all this talent, and we have this project to capitalize all that. So this is a project that has already been approved by the City of Buenos Aires government. It's going to be ready in less than 3 years, and it's located in the heart of Buenos Aires city. This is a project of 12 hectares, all pedestrian, with underground parking, and it will bring together all the academic, scientific, and entrepreneurial ecosystem into one place. So, and it's important to highlight that we have the city of, the public University of Buenos Aires, that is a very good university and is totally free, and it's just across this innovation park. So we are building like a pedestrian bridge between this university and the innovation park. That university already has 15,000 students. So, and the innovation park will have approximately 30,000 people working, studying, and living there, because we want this innovation park to be alive 7 days a week, 24 hours. So this is a new neighborhood, innovation neighborhood integrated to the city. So how we can connect this project to Korea and to the rest of Latin America? I know that I have other questions, and probably I will talk more about that, but I think there are a lot of opportunities nowadays to capitalize the future project, and also to capitalize all the talent and the entrepreneurial ecosystems that we currently have in Buenos Aires. And we are learning a lot from Korean experiences, from Born to Global Agency, and also from Bangyo Techno Valley that we are going to visit this week. So we are very excited to keep on growing the relationships between Buenos Aires, Argentina, and the Korea government.
Okay, thank you very much. I think you have elaborated a modern meaning of a cluster. more organically linking academic and research with the industries, which we don't have in Pangyo, actually. We lack university there, but still there should be a lot to share between us. So I hope your visit to Pangyo can produce another value in terms of our relationship between those two clusters. Excellent, thank you very much. Thanks for your patience, Camilo. He is our final speaker in our first part. And when you say Korean Latin American investment relations, you usually mean inevitably Korean companies' investment in Latin America, which considerably lacks balance between those two regions. Now, I'm thinking thanks to you and your partners' initiative, we are getting to the more balanced way of partnership between Korea and Latin America in terms of the investment. His company is investing in Korean companies. He is leading one of the most prominent venture capitals, Angel Ventures, in Mexico. So tell us which share we should buy. Okay, well, please.
First of all, I'm going to try very hard not to look at the microphone. Having it sideways is not what you would expect. So I will make a best effort. I'll say this, to understand where we came to looking at Korean companies and how we came to look at Korean companies, you have to look at what's happening or what's been happening in the last, I would say, 10 years, maybe a little bit longer if you want to stretch it, in venture capital in Latin America, of which IDB, of course, has been a pivotal and instrumental part of. We are a fund manager that invests in Series A all the way to Series B and C in certain companies in Latin America. And one of our investors, as a matter of fact, our anchor investor in our first fund, and as we're one of the few managers where they've invested in 2 consecutive funds, IDB has been, like I say, an integral part of getting us launched a few years ago, almost 11 years ago, when we started the company. And that growth that IDB's involvement spurred, again, many years ago, has evolved into a good ecosystem in Latin America where there are a lot of managers throughout the region. There's still more that needs to be done in Latin America, but to be sure, we went from just a handful of fund managers to about 120 fund managers regionally with some significance, and with, I want to say, about a dozen of us managing close to or over $100 million, specifically for venture capital investments. So obviously that growth in the asset class led us to look outside of Mexico, which is where we were initially founded, even though I'm Argentinian. But what happened was, when we started to see that a lot of our colleagues were looking at the same pipeline that we were looking, we started to look outside of Mexico. And we initially expanded to the Pacific Alliance member countries, so we have offices in Lima and Bogota, apart from the one in Mexico City. We also have one in Guadalajara for different reasons, and we're opening Chile in Q1 of 2020. And at some point, we started looking intently at Asia, more specifically at Korea. And the reason for that is we have always believed that there are problems being solved that are very similar in nature with a very different approach that is given by our different idiosyncrasies. So you guys have a very different approach to solving very similar issues, and that to us was very interesting because obviously as fund manager you want to look for people who are solving issues that are important in a different way, right? And we found that here. We also found that KVIC, the Korea Venture Investment Corporation, had never made an investment in a Latin American fund manager, but they had made other investments in emerging managers elsewhere. So after a long song and dance of about 2 years, where mostly we insisted and they said no, we managed to get them to come to Mexico and take a look at what we were doing. And after that, it was a very streamlined process by which KVIC made a rather important deployment into our fund. And with that in mind, we set out to look for specifically 3 types of companies that fit what we call the Korea thesis of our fund. One is Latin American companies that want to do business in Korea, and we can invest in that. And we do investments of between $3 and $5 million initially, and we can do up to $15 million if a company warrants it. The second part of that Korea thesis is Korean companies that want to deploy into Latin America. And the third part is any venture that is at least 30% Korean owned. So those are the three conditions that the companies have to broadly meet. Obviously, they have to be of a technological nature. We invest in technological companies, technology-focused companies. And one of the things that appeals to us the most is the fact that, for example, the South Korean stock exchange has 3 times the combined volume of all Latin American stock exchanges. So the one thing that we are considering doing, and actually we've already made our first investment into a rather large investment into a South Korean company, is to have them list in the Korea Stock Exchange by merging with a Latin American company and doing a reverse merger. So these are very interesting opportunities and possibilities that are afforded to us by virtue of our partnership with KVIC and investing in Korean companies.
Okay, I think what you have just told was just a tip of the iceberg, and many more things are ongoing definitely. When you even thinking about this listing in the Korean exchange market and further private sector collaborations based on your private sector financial backup. But I should tell you, even if the Korean exchange market value is pretty high, there is always a saying of Korea discount. Korea discount, meaning there's always good room for improvement. And we deserve
have no idea what the
more
Latin
than this.
American discount is, if you think there's a Korea discount.
Okay, let's together get over this discount. Yeah. Thank you for this wonderful news about new horizon in our collaboration, especially in the financial market. Now we successfully finished the part 1, but still we have much more questions and issues to discuss. So I'd like to open the part 2. Due to the time constraint, I'd like to ask you to limit your answers more or less about 2 minutes. If you are that thirsty, a little bit more that. 30 seconds more. Now, I'd like to invite Mr. Federico Gutierrez again about, you mentioned the 4th Industrial Revolution again, and then I'm very happy to hear that Medellin was chosen to host the Center for the 4th Industrial Revolution in Latin America. And what are the factors that makes the city a benchmark and epicenter of innovation? And so how do you think those factors, together with the Korea's experience, can contribute to the other cities' cases or also improvement of your citizens? So tell us a little bit more about your also future vision of the Medellin in terms of the 4th Industrial Revolution.
Bueno, yo creo que es que la historia de Medellín es una historia fascinante, lo mismo la de nuestro país, y es como una ciudad que fue la más violenta del mundo en 1991, hoy puede estar diciendo que es una de las ciudades más innovadoras del mundo y que dentro de 1.961.967 ciudades que hay en el mundo, solo 5 tienen un centro aliado para la 4ª revolución industrial con el World Economic Forum. Y eso ha tenido unos grandes protagonistas, por supuesto el BID ha sido uno de ellos. Yo recuerdo mucho la llamada de Luis Alberto Moreno cuando el World Economic Forum estaba mirando hacia América Latina, donde ubicaba ese centro, porque hay que decir que no es para Medellín, es para toda América Latina, y empezamos a trabajar con el BID. El presidente Iván Duque, inmediatamente conectado con un proyecto tan importante como estos, yo ahora lo mencioné, tanto el ministro José Manuel como Flavia de ProColombia, y arranca un proceso en el cual en muy corto tiempo, solo en enero de este año, a 4 meses de ese primer aviso, ya estábamos con el profesor Klaus Schwab, director y fundador del World Economic Forum, diciendo que Medellín iba a ser el epicentro para la región. ¿Y por qué lo hemos logrado? Porque después de que Medellín vivió esas peores épocas de violencia, lo que hicimos fue juntarnos como sociedad. Aquí no hay fórmulas mágicas, pero sí hay fórmulas certeras. Y una de ellas ha sido el trabajo en equipo entre el sector público, el sector privado, las universidades y la sociedad civil. Y desde que vimos los peores momentos nos hemos concentrado en dos temas que son fundamentales, que son educación e innovación. Medellín al 2014 era una ciudad que invertía 0.7% del PIB en actividades relacionadas con innovación, ciencia y tecnología. A cierre del año pasado, ya como ciudad estábamos invirtiendo 2.27 puntos del PIB en esta actividad relacionada de innovación, ciencia y tecnología. Tenemos una meta al 2021 que seguramente la vamos a superar, que es de 3 puntos. Entonces esta es una ciudad que le ha apostado a la educación, que le hemos apostado a la innovación y que con el gobierno nacional tenemos esta alianza en partes iguales, mitad y mitad, para que desde Medellín sea el centro para América Latina. Y yo por eso quería aprovechar que acá hay tantos gobiernos de América Latina y también tantos inversionistas, y es que estamos listos porque tenemos el Distrito de Innovación, son 170 hectáreas listas para recibir a las mejores empresas del mundo también en actividades relacionadas con innovación, ciencia y tecnología. Tenemos 3 temas, 3 prioridades: blockchain, Internet de las cosas e inteligencia artificial. Pero si lo que le ha pasado a Medellín en estos años, pocas décadas después de haber sido la más violenta y Medellín ha podido progresar, hoy se puede decir que Medellín reconoce su pasado, pero sobre todo que tiene presente, pero sobre todo futuro. Y la inversión es muy importante y por eso la confianza inversionista lo es, y es muy importante que todos podamos entender que ese centro para la cuarta revolución no es de Medellín, es desde Medellín, desde Colombia, para toda la región y que podamos trabajar articulados.
Okay, thanks for telling us. Especially, it's necessary to overcome this past history of the violence with the introduction of new initiatives on the fourth industrial revolution. I definitely think you are going to the right direction, and the private sector investment and more support is needed to be able to do that. Now I'd like to turn to Dolores Cortes again about the Innovation Park's impact in how your experience would like to bring to the Latin American region in terms of your dissemination strategy.
Sorry. First, I would like to steal 1 more minute. I hope, Shay, you don't get angry with me. It's my birthday today, so I hope you don't get angry. Thank you. So first, we didn't know about this center of the fourth revolution. We have just met in the coffee with Agustinho from this center that is able to boost all these networks with Latin America. So thanks a lot for that. So it's amazing how these congresses makes all these things even better and these connections grow. So thank you very much for that information. And also, before going to your questions, just 1 more minute. First, besides working for this project in Buenos Aires, I'm Argentinian, as you know, and an Argentinian fan. And I have heard that you have some trade agreements with many different countries in Latin America, and I hope we can have a trade agreement between the Argentinian and the Korean government. I just met the ambassador, a new ambassador from Argentina here in Korea. He's coming from a long experience in China with a lot of success, so I hope that we can promote that trade agreement, so I'm happy to hear that and work towards that. So going to your question now, this innovation park, we think that is going to be very good for the region as well. For example, we are bringing now 6 incredible entrepreneurs to this trip to Korea from six different industries. There are fintech, biotechnology, video gaming, health tech. So we have a lot of talent, not only in Buenos Aires, but across the region. So we think that with this innovation park, we can help to boost all the entrepreneur ecosystem and working together in order to achieve like innovation hub, but not only Buenos Aires or Colombia or Chile, if not a regional innovation hub. I used to work, before working for the government of Buenos Aires, I used to work for one of the unicorns that I told you before, leading projects for Latin America, and we worked very closely in many projects, and we had developers from Argentina, Colombia, Chile, Uruguay, working together for the same project, and we think that with this innovation park, we can achieve even greater results if we work all together.
Very good. One of the things Asian countries should learn is this. Latin countries are very easy to communicate each other, understand each other, and fastly forming a network in terms of the knowledge sharing and dissemination. But in Asia, it's very difficult to do that, maybe because of the cultural differences and language barriers and so on. But I expect a success, beautiful success in the region, and to be replicated to other regions as well, to Africa, Asia, and even for us. Thank you very much. And now I'd like to invite Camilo again. And you have been working with the Koreans already, I think, but I'm pretty sure you have concrete plans to further strengthening your partnerships with the South Korean, possibly the financial institutions, both private and public. And what would be your future relationships in terms of the partnership between those similar kinds of like-minded institutions?
Yeah, well, as I touched upon briefly before, these are not relationships that you establish in one trip. This is not something that just happens. We have worked very hard. We've been here often and for long periods of time. And we also have made an effort to have a conscientious outreach program to Korean institutions that are based in Latin America. So we try to upkeep those relationships we guard them very closely, and we foster them a lot. And I think that's all well and good, but for what we need to do, we also need to establish relationships with local entrepreneurs, local venture capital firms, and also with companies that are spinning off, big corporates that are doing spin-offs that could turn into startups that could be impactful for Latin America. So those relationships, I'm not going to lie, they take time, and that's why either my partner or myself, we are here at least 2 times a year each, oftentimes up to 4 times a year, and we spend about a week each time, and it's not enough. You still need to work on those relationships because there's obviously the distance, the language gap, which is complicated, and even for the companies that we've invested in, we try to have them come to the region, and we come here as well and meet in person because it goes a much longer way. So unfortunately, I think this is one part where even though it assists and it helps, technology doesn't solve our communication issues. So the upkeeping of this relationship has to be personal, and it has to be often. It has to be continuous.
Yeah, especially.
I wish I had an easier answer for you.
I mean, you can wire money with just one click of enter key, but before you do that, you need a human contact, very intensive human contact. And I hope you find a good reason to establish a branch here, somewhere in Seoul or Pangyo. So in the near future.
We are considering having a small office here for sourcing of pipeline specifically.
Right.
Yes, we are.
And also you can use Korea as a platform to further cultivate the investment opportunities in other emerging economies in Southeast Asia, for instance. Yeah, that will be another exciting area we can discuss in the next business summit, possibly. Okay,
I would love that.
Thank you very much indeed. And now I'd like to turn to Korean side again. And we are talking about the sharing and dissemination in the second part. And Mr. Kim Gi-jung, KOTRA has been actively engaged in knowledge sharing program which is a facility of the Korean government. So I'd like to ask you to share us some cases, whether the Korean case was useful for Latin American countries. Yeah.
Okay, I think every Latin American country wants to learn from Korea's compressed growth. And in response to this request, Korean government is implementing KSP, knowledge sharing program, that provides public policy consulting based on Korea's economic development experience. In Latin America, a total 74 KSP projects have been completed or are currently on the way. For example, in 2009, after the power system improvement consulting to the Dominican Republic, the company KEPCO, Korea Electric Power Corporation, participated in the power grid improvement project and has greatly contributed to the power infrastructure of Dominican Republic. And KOTRA is also sharing our experience in strengthening export promotion capabilities and improving the foreign investment environment, which are necessary for Latin American countries' stable economic growth. And IDB is also using the Technical Cooperation Trust Fund to build up the innovation capabilities in Latin America. Since joining IDB in 2005, Korea has carried out a total 179 technical cooperation projects in the areas of ICT, energy, transportation, in which Korea has strengths. I think there is a lot of room for cooperation through active linkage between Korea KSP and IDB's technical cooperation project. Recently, the master plan for building a data center in Buenos Aires, Argentina, was implemented by KSP IDB joint consulting. Through this joint consulting, more realistic and demand-based KSP was possible. In this way, KSP IDB joint consulting is creating mutual synergy by sharing both Korea's experience and IDB's consulting know-how, resulting in more fruitful performance for beneficiary countries in Latin America.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Knowledge sharing in terms of the policy is not easy because knowledge can be shared, but policy itself is very difficult to be replicated in an entirely different environment. But however, what I see is the more pinpointing demand over the KSP is increasing from all other partner countries, especially those middle and upper middle countries. So I think that's because the Korea's experience is now well marketed and is well known in terms of the policy efficiency. So more and more countries are very keen on to learn the specific, more specific knowledge and policy know-how. So with regard to that, so our role, especially KOTRA's role, will be strengthened in the future. Now I'd like to invite Mr. Kim Hye-jung again about the current and future directions of existing channels, or if there are some regrets you can share with us. And also, fundamentally, we'd like to know what are the win-win strategy between Korea and Latin American relationship, and what would Korea expect from IDB to contribute for that? Floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. First, on success stories. I'd like to start by appreciating our speakers from Colombia, Argentina, and Mexico for sharing good stories so far. In addition to these remarks, I think Korea has contributed to improving the quality of life for LAC residents through projects like projects that directly impact their lives, such as investment program to support energy matrix transition in Ecuador and Nicaragua, and program for expansion and improvement for sustainable and resilient water supply to cities in Bolivia. You also upheld the LAC region's economic growth engines utilizing ICT through projects like broadband program in Nicaragua and the policy reform program for the development of connectivity and digital economy in Colombia. However, the areas of our cooperation still remain in certain fields, such as ICT and infrastructure. And also we should note that there is still much room for improvement in human and business exchanges between Korea and LAC, coping with our physical distance and language barriers. Going forward, we need to capitalize on Korea's strength in ICT in identifying new areas of convergent and integrated cooperation. I believe among trust fund projects, the exemplary cases that use the cutting-edge technologies include supporting the Zero Fossil Fuel Initiative for Galapagos, innovating in education at scale using technology, and transformation from industrial port to smart port. We need to identify more integrated projects in addition to these. Also, we need to add more human and business exchange projects. In addition to current short-term exchange projects, such as COPLAC, event held in Korea last month, and fostering the internationalization of LAC Tech Companies project. We need to continuously push forward the Korea LAC Tech Core program and scholarship program for LAC talent, which allow for long-term exchanges. And as Deputy Prime Minister Hong and President Moreno mentioned this morning, we should harness low trade barriers through FTAs between Korea and LAC countries, including recent FTA between Korea and 5 Central American countries, to be taken into effect starting this October, to expand mutual trade and investment between businesses in Korea and LAC. Finally, as Korea is to contribute $10 million to IDB migration initiative, we look forward to seeing more projects actively being carried out, especially in housing and healthcare sectors, wherein Korea could provide with this high competitiveness and expertise. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have a pretty comprehensive vision towards IDB and Latin America. I can learn again. Now, finally, I'd like to invite Juan Antonio. Listening all those, including Korean government's vision on the cooperation with the IDB, how does the IDB's funding strategy relate to Korea's view of cooperation with MDB, like IDB?
Okay, the funding strategy basically has to do with our view of the future and how do we see the future. The future looks bright, very bright, but it is also very expensive. So bright because we do have the technology to deliver most of the promises of development under the leadership of President Moreno. I think that the IDB during the last 7 or 8 years ago has radically improved its offer, its menu of digital products, and those can be used for the development of the countries. It is the future also expensive because that technology that we put in place will cost a lot of money. And this money has to be on top of the current deficit on basic infrastructure and the current deficit on climate adaptation and mitigation. So this is something that needs to be financed somehow. And this how cannot be out of public resources because governments do not have enough resources at this point to finance this deployment of technology. Therefore, a change in strategy has to be made. And this change in strategy has to do with the fact that public money has not to be used to finance, but it has to be used to create the conditions for the private sector to come and finance. That is the basic thing. And for that, we can rely on our partners in Korea in 2 things. They have been able to actually deploy this technology, and they also have figured out the way in which to bring the private sector to co-finance that. So by using their example and by using their technical assistance and our partnership, I think that we can say a third thing about the future is that we can be optimistic about it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much indeed. What an overwhelming, intensive 1-hour discussion among the panelists who are all professionals in their respective field. I very much appreciate for your sharing your idea and experience and your insight to deepening and enriching the relationship between Korea and Latin America with the IDB's support. When we have another business meeting in the future, I'm pretty sure we have many more deepening and enriched discussion. However, I'm sure also this 5th Korean Latin American Business Summit, this plenary session, will be also remembered as an opening horizon, opening venue for the new opportunities, the future opportunities to come. And once again, I appreciate for our partners, and also I'm very thankful for the audiences for your listening and participation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the Professor Kwak for leading such an engaging conversation. You may now return to your seats. Let's give them another round of applause. Thank you.